Are you looking to take your game collection to the next level? Maybe you've spent a lot of time in COVID wearing out your Catan board and you're ready to try something new? Or maybe you tried bringing Cards Against Humanity to the family function last year and it wasn't a big hit with grandma? Well, either way, if you're looking for some games this holiday season that'll be new to you but still feel familiar enough to just jump right in and start playing, then might I suggest? Hi, I'm Alex, and welcome to Might I Suggest a Game, a channel devoted to helping you find the perfect board game. The holidays are just around the corner, and what kind of board game sommelier would I be if I didn't give you all some of my favorite recommendations for the year? So I'm gonna break it down for you in my first official Might I Suggest a Game holiday gift guide. Now, if you do a quick search, you'll find that there's a bajillion of these holiday gift guides, so I'm trying to do mine a little bit differently. I'm gonna take 10 of the most popular games out there, including many that might make it to your table this holiday season, and based on those games, I'm gonna give you my suggestions for games that I think are a natural next step for your collection. So grab a pen and get ready to update that gift list. And while you're at it, why not take a second to subscribe and hit that little bell button right next to it so you can get notified when I post new content. I've had a lot of new subscribers join the family lately, and I'm really looking forward to adding a whole bunch more during the holiday season. So come join the party. Anyways, let's get into it. Will one of these games on my holiday gift guide be the perfect game for you? Let's find out, shall we? Alright, we're starting off with the heavy hitters here. Since its release in 1995, Settlers of Catan has become one of the most popular games of all time, selling over 32 million copies worldwide, which means there's a pretty good chance that you either own it or you've played it at some point. Now, considering how widespread and well-known Catan is, you'd think it'd be safe to assume that it's also an amazing game, right?
That's not entirely accurate.
Well, okay, it's partially accurate at least. Settlers of Catan has introduced thousands of people to the board gaming hobby, and has taught them key mechanics that have helped them grasp all kinds of different games. But saying that Catan is the best game out there is like saying that a 95 Camry is the best car ever. Sure, it set the standard in its day, but things have progressed since then, and they've built on the formula that made it so successful. So let's get you into something a little newer, a 2011 title that's been around long enough to show that it has a lot of staying power. It's the Castles of Burgundy. In the Castles of Burgundy, you'll be rolling dice and collecting hex-shaped tiles to build a Catan-shaped kingdom on your own personal board. The look and feel of the game, even down to the artwork, is really reminiscent of Catan, and I found that this familiar setting helped players that are leveling up from Catan feel right at home. Castles of Burgundy also improves on some of my biggest gripes about Catan, like dice mitigation and spiteful player interaction. Let me explain. Have you ever had a game of Catan where you're convinced that you're set up for success, you've settled on some great numbers, and you should have plenty of resources lined up, and then nobody ever rolls those numbers? Even though you're strategizing with probability, at the end of the day, the dice roll is still random. The distribution isn't always what it should be, and that can be kind of frustrating. In Castles of Burgundy, though, they introduce a mechanic called workers, a resource that you can collect throughout the game and then spend to either add or subtract one from your die roll. This gives the frequent dice rolling a little bit of a strategic side that'll give you a leg up when you need it most, while still maintaining that fun game of chance that makes the game interesting. Another thing that I think Castles of Burgundy improves upon is that mean player interaction that Catan is sometimes known for. Catan is notorious for allowing people to punish the player that jumps out to an early lead. They become a target that everyone steals from and nobody wants to trade with, and that's no fun. The scoring of Castles of Burgundy is much more multi-dimensional than Catan, and because of the sheer amount of victory points being thrown around, not to mention the many opportunities for endgame scoring objectives, it's almost impossible to know who's really ahead at any given point in time. This frees up everyone to just focus on playing their best game and removes a lot of that hostility that can turn Catan into a war zone. All in all, I think the Castles of Burgundy is the perfect next step for someone who's out there wondering if there's more to life than Catan. The mechanics are slightly more complex, but because it shares so many of them with Catan, you're not starting from zero, which you would be for many games of this weight. So if you love Settlers of Catan, but you feel like you've mastered it, or you're just ready to take that next step into the wide world of board games, then might I suggest the Castles of Burgundy. The next one we'll talk about is the classic train game Ticket to Ride, an amazing family-weight game that's become a household staple in recent years. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a huge Ticket to Ride fan, and I always enjoy it when we get it out to the table, especially when I get that longest train bonus. But here's the thing, because the board's so big and there's so many of those awesome little plastic train pieces, as soon as you have kids running around the house during the holidays, this game turns into a disaster waiting to happen.
Don't touch that.
Why not?
If someone even just accidentally bumps the board, it could take half an hour to reset everything and remember how many points everyone had, not to mention that those trains are a mega choking hazard. So how do you solve this logistical problem without removing too much of the soul of the game? Well, let me introduce you to Metro X. Metro X takes those beloved trains and puts them underground, and replaces those plastic bits with a whiteboard and a marker. Instead of building a transcontinental railroad, you'll be creating a compact subway system with enough junctions and crossings to make your head spin. The heart of the game is the same. You're connecting routes and reaching destinations to gain points that'll help you win at the end of the game. But the way you do it is slightly different. Instead of collecting sets of colors and playing them to build a route, you'll instead be flipping cards over with different numbers. These numbers will tell you how far along the route you can travel. Now the tricky part here is that the number isn't just for you, it's for everyone, which means that every player has an equal opportunity to build the perfect subway network. One of the most annoying things that can happen in Ticket to Ride is when you need one specific color to complete a route and it takes forever to pop up in the market. You don't have to worry about that in Metro X. You can fill out spaces on any of the routes from the very beginning of the game, and these decisions are the ones that end up affecting the final outcome. Metro X is a much smaller and much lighter game that carries the joy of Ticket to Ride in a package that you could bring on an actual train and enjoy. I don't think it replaces Ticket to Ride by any means, but I do think that it's a worthy substitute for those that don't have the time or the space to get all those plastic trains to the table. So if you love Ticket to Ride and you're looking for something to add to your collection that's a little quicker and a little bit more mobile, then might I suggest Metro X. Ah yes, we meet again, old friend. Clue is the quintessential deduction game, and its proven formula of creating a simple yet replayable whodunit has made this game a nostalgic icon. Everybody loves choosing their characters. I'm a Mr. Green guy myself. And who doesn't love solving a good mystery? But you know what people don't love? They don't love having to roll and move across a board, only to have someone solve the case faster than them because they rolled all sixes. This roll and move mechanic in Clue seems really arbitrary to me, so I wanted to find a game with less of that and more of the good stuff. So what does a game with less dice and more characters, less murder and more deduction look like? Well, it looks like Picture Perfect. In Picture Perfect, instead of 6 main characters, there's 14. And the best part is, you don't even have to choose your favorite because each player gets their own individual set. Now, I think the publishers may have missed an opportunity to name all these characters, but somehow I think it's even more fun to come up with names on your own, like Fancy Boy, Colonel Mustard, or Tracy Ellis Ross. Anyways, the goal of the game is to learn as much as you can about each guest so that you can place them on your board to take the perfect photo. Each character's preferences are different based on their 3 bits of private information hidden in an envelope. Sound familiar? You'll start the game with information on a few of the characters, but you'll need to swap and gather more envelopes as the game goes on to really see the bigger picture.
See what I did there?
At the end of the game, you'll reveal each envelope one by one, and whoever met the guest's requirements best wins the game. Now I know what you're thinking. Alex, there's no murder in this game. Yeah, exactly. You want murder? Sure, this game won't make a movie as compelling as that Tim Curry masterpiece.
We're trying to find out who killed him, and where, and with what. There's no need to shout. I'm not shouting! All right, I am. I'm shouting, I'm shouting, I'm shouting!
But if murder was the only reason that you liked Clue, then maybe you should seek help. Picture Perfect has those elements of Clue that have made it a staple for so many years. It's got a memorable cast of characters, it cranks the deduction all the way up to 11, and all without ever having to roll a single die. It's just as simple to pick up as Clue, and the variability of potential objectives means that every game plays differently. So if you loved Clue growing up, but you're tired of having to roll yourself all the way to the kitchen to accuse Professor Plum of using the wrench, then might I suggest Picture Perfect. Now, I don't want it to sound like I hate rolling dice. I have nothing against dice. Who said I had something against dice? Dice are, dice, you know? Am I saying the word dice too much?
Dude, I think he's doing the dice thing too much.
Anyways, if you want to talk dice, let's talk about that classic push-your-luck dice game, Yahtzee. Now, Yahtzee is a fun dice-chucking game with a little bit of strategy to give you the illusion of control, but for the most part, you're at the mercy of the dice, and it usually is the luckiest player that ends up on top. Now, if you want to take the next step in this roll and write genre, and you want to get a little bit more strategy involved so that it feels more like a puzzle and less like a craps table, then let me introduce you to That's Pretty Clever. That's Pretty Clever, or Ganz schön clever for all of our German board game enthusiasts, is a fantastic roll and write that improves upon the classic rolling the dice and filling out your boxes formula popularized by Yahtzee. That's Pretty Clever takes the 5 dice from Yahtzee, adds a 6th one, and gives you all different colors to help you make combos throughout the game. The combos are actually my favorite part of the game. Unlike Yahtzee, as you're marking off boxes on your sheet, some of those boxes will trigger an effect that can allow you to fill out more boxes, re-roll some of the dice, take extra actions, etc, etc. This means that even though you're still at the mercy of whatever's been rolled, you have more opportunities to fill out boxes even if they never show up on the dice. Another cool thing about this game is that everyone is involved in every turn. Unlike Yahtzee, where you have to watch everyone else roll before it's your turn again, and That's Pretty Clever, you'll get to take the value of one of the 3 dice that gets discarded every turn, which means that you increase your chances of getting that perfect number every round. All in all, That's Pretty Clever feels like if Yahtzee had an older brother that went to college, got his degree, and didn't develop a gambling addiction. Yay. It's a really fun puzzle that keeps you involved on every turn, but plays quickly enough to not overstay its welcome. So if you're looking to gamble, go to Vegas. But if you're looking for a game that improves upon the Yahtzee formula with simple strategies and cool combos, then might I suggest That's Pretty Clever. Now it's time to talk about chess, the OG board game, an abstract classic that has endured for millennia. Maybe you got back into chess because you watched The Queen's Gambit this year, but after a little while the daunting nature of having to learn a bunch of different openings to even be the slightest bit competitive got too much for you. Chess has been around forever, and because of that, people have gotten so good at it that it often feels more like a mental contest than a fun game.
This is supposed to be fun, and now I'm not having fun.
So, is there an abstract strategy game that feels chess-like, but is more simple, more approachable, and more fun? Well, let me introduce you to Hive. Hive is about as chess-adjacent as you can get. You've got a duel between the black pieces and the white pieces. Each of the pieces has variable movement powers, just like in chess. But in Hive, instead of playing on a grid, you make your own board. You'll be placing your bug-themed hexes adjacent to one another in an attempt to fully surround and capture their queen. The concept is the same as chess, and the objective is the same, so really the only thing that needs to be learned is the different movements of the bugs in your supply. Now, don't let this simplicity fool you. Hive is by no means a simpleton's game. In fact, it requires a ton of strategy and forethought to be able to attack and defend simultaneously. But compared to chess and its seemingly infinite possibilities, Hive is just the right amount of abstract thinking to feel like a challenge while still being fun. So if you enjoy chess, but you've come to terms that you're never going to be a grandmaster and you're just looking to have a little bit more fun, then might I suggest Hive. Alright, we're halfway there and this Christmas sweater is getting hot, so let's keep going. It's time now to talk about word games, and although there may be a bunch of games in this genre that make it to your table over the holidays, like Bananagrams, Scattergories, or Boggle, I thought that the OG Scrabble would be a good one to talk about. Now, I like word games. I'm a fan of spelling. I was runner-up in my elementary school spelling bee 3 years in a row, but Scrabble is a game that I can say objectively takes way too long to play. And unless you're planning to flip a Sam timer on everyone's turn, then you're probably looking for a game that feels like Scrabble, but in a more digestible format. Now, some of these word games that I mentioned before are decent replacements, and they're definitely fun to play, but they also do tend to be speed-based and therefore very chaotic in nature. I don't want to have to put on workout clothes and open a new stick of deodorant every time I want to spell.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
So is there a game that captures the relaxed nature of Scrabble without taking multiple hours to complete? Well, let me tell you about Culus. I did a video on this super fun and super portable game a while back, so if you want to know more details about the gameplay and info on where to buy this game, then hit the link in the corner. Essentially, Culus is a mini solo version of Scrabble, where you roll the different letter dice and try to make your very own Scrabble formation of words that are 3 letters or longer. The game requires no board, no bag, no scoring, just your brain and somewhere to roll those dice. My wife and I love to pass this game back and forth, even over dinner. It requires enough concentration to be a challenging puzzle, but not enough to prevent you from having a good conversation. You still get that Scrabble satisfaction of making the perfect word, but it's in a time frame that's incredibly manageable and oftentimes so short that it'll make you want to play another round. It also comes in this amazing little Altoid tin, which makes it a great game for travel and an ideal stocking stuffer. Plus, it's just a little passion project. A small business started by a guy that had an idea and just wanted to put it out in the world. I can guarantee that you'll feel better buying from him than you will from Amazon. So if you love Scrabble and other word games, but you're looking for a way to play that's low stress and doesn't require such a big commitment, then might I suggest Culus. Ah, here it is, the infamous Trivial Pursuit. Another case of a great idea with a terrible execution. Let me ask you, when was the last time you made it to the end of a game of Trivial Pursuit without either cheating, or giving up, or throwing the game? That's what I thought. Trivial Pursuit has been the gold standard for trivia games for forever. But when you actually take a look at the game with a discerning eye, you'll end up with more questions than answers. Mostly, why?
Why? Why
do you have to roll a die to figure out how smart you are? And more importantly, why do you always know the answers to all the other questions, but when your question comes up, it's the hardest question of all time? Needless to say, this ancient formula needs some updating, so let me introduce you to Half-Truth. Half-Truth is a trivia game created by Ken Jennings of Jeopardy fame and Richard Garfield, the creator of Magic the Gathering. And if hearing those two names together doesn't get you excited, well, we are not the same. But that's okay. Even if you don't know about these two nerd legends, you should still know about Half-Truth. The idea behind Half-Truth is that each trivia card in the game has 6 answers on it, 3 correct and 3 incorrect. Players will play simultaneously, meaning that unlike Trivial Pursuit, everyone gets to answer every question. And you'll score points based on how many correct answers you get. You could try to guess just one of the correct answers or go all in with 3. But be careful, if you get even just one answer wrong, you lose all your points for that turn. Now the best part of this is, even if you don't know anything about the subject, you still have a 50-50 chance to guess one right and score points.
Oh yes, that's very good. I like that.
Half-Truth is a trivia game the way it's meant to be played. It's quick, it's fun, and it doesn't punish you too hard if you don't know something. The trivia is obscure enough and doesn't fall into a specific category like its predecessor, so that means that every game there's a pretty good chance that something will pop up that you're an expert in. So if you enjoy trivia, but you can't stomach another 3-hour session of Trivial Pursuit where you lose on a question about a movie star from the 50s, then might I suggest Half-Truth. Let's talk about codenames. This hidden word party game has taken the world by storm since its release in 2015, but there's a reason why I put the word party in air quotes. I mean, sure, the idea is great and all, and I've definitely had fun playing it in the past, but you can't deny that if your clue giver has any form of analysis paralysis at all, then you might as well pick up a new hobby because you're gonna be waiting forever to get your clue. Plus, the fact that this game is competitive and you're always trying to beat the other team adds even another layer of pressure onto the clue giver. I don't know about you, but I'm not looking for that kind of pressure at any party I'm going to. I'm more of a Lloyd Christmas guy.
I'm gonna hang by the bar. Put out the vibe. Okay.
Like I said before, the idea is great, but the execution could be improved, and a game that I think improves upon this formula is So Clover. So Clover just came out this year, and I love its cooperative approach to the hidden word mechanic. Similar to Just One, if you've ever played that, but with more of a team vibe. In So Clover, everyone gets the chance to be the clue giver, so you're always staying involved, and more importantly, that super slow clue giver only has to go once. This game is all about word association in a similar way to Codenames, but instead of trying to go over the bajillion different connections on the Codenames grid, you just have a couple of pairs of words that you have to get people to guess. In the game, you'll write clues to connect the 2 words on each side of your board, and then you'll take your cards off your board, add a few extra in, and then the rest of the team will do their best to decipher your clues and put the cards back in their correct orientation. So Clover is low stakes, it's quick, it's really easy to teach, and you still get all the fun of hidden clues and word association that has made Codenames so popular. So if you're looking for a way to make Codenames fun again, and you want a game that you might actually want to bring to the party, especially on St. Patrick's Day, then might I suggest So Clover. Okay, so this one isn't really a board game per se, but a lot of people that I've talked to said that their family mostly just plays card games like Pinochle, Euchre, Hearts, Rummy, Spades, etc. There's a bajillion different card games out there, and I feel like every family has their own variation and their own house rules. Now this is all well and good until the siblings can't agree on what the house rules are, and someone ends up flipping the table, and the whole play a game to have some bonding time idea goes right out the window. No, I'm not speaking from experience. Why would you say that? So let's introduce a new new family card game that feels both familiar and unique, and has all the players working together towards a shared goal. You guessed it, it's The Crew. Okay, so you may be thinking, will Alex ever have a video where he doesn't talk about The Crew?
Why are you so obsessed with me?
Well, once it stops being so good, I'll stop talking about it. The Crew is the perfect board game to turn into your next family tradition because, like any good card game, it's one that you can get lost in for hours. At its core, it's just a simple trick-taking card game, but the twist is that the objectives change with each round, which means that you'll have to find new and creative ways to communicate and play your cards right in order to win. There may be levels where you get totally stuck and you have to stand up and take a breather, but those moments make the moment when you do pass the level seem that much greater. The Crew takes the classic trick-taking game formula and adds just enough of that special sauce to make it one of the most accessible and most fun games that I've played in a long time. Plus, it comes in a pretty compact box, so it can make for another really great stocking stuffer. So if you're looking for a new card game to bring home to the family that might just turn your crew into the crew, then might I suggest The Crew. And last but not least, you knew I had to throw this one in here. It's Cards Against Humanity. Now, this raunchy party game had its heyday a few years back, and now there are so many different spin-offs on the Target shelves that it's impossible to count.
There's too many of them.
Every one of these games follows the same formula. Someone draws a card, and then everyone plays a card from the hand that's either the most shocking, the most funny, the most ridiculous, etc., etc. People love these games because they're easy to play, they're good for a few laughs, and it usually reveals something about the other players that you didn't know before. And that's great, but let me tell you, there are better games out there. There are way better games out there that fit those criteria and don't make your grandma cringe. So let's talk about Monikers. Monikers is one of my favorite party games of all time because it combines elements from many different games into one super fun activity. At the beginning of the game, you'll each pick some clue cards from the box and select a number of them to make a shared deck. These clues vary from random internet memes to historical figures to some irreverent references that would make Cards Against Humanity proud. The best part is though, you can pick and choose which ones you want to do and which ones you don't want to do, which means that you can definitely tailor the game for all kinds of different demographics. Once you create the deck, you'll do one round like Taboo, where you've got a minute to try to get your team to guess as many clues as they can without saying the key word. Then when the deck is empty, you'll reshuffle it, and you'll do the next round where you can only use one word to describe the card, kind of like Codenames. And then when the deck is empty again, you'll reshuffle it one more time, and the last round is just charades. See? It's that easy.
Could it really be that simple?
Monikers is a perfect party game that's super easy to learn and leads to a ton of memorable moments. You can still spice it up and have those awkwardly funny moments like Cards Against Humanity, but in this format you're never on the hook to judge, and you just get to spend the time watching your dad try to do the charade for a belly dancer. So if you're looking for something more versatile and more replayable than Cards Against Humanity that's honestly just way more fun, then might I suggest Monikers. Thanks so much for sticking around for my very first Might I Suggest a Game holiday gift guide. I hope this list gives you some ideas on what to give or what to ask for this holiday season, and I really hope we all get to start the new year with some awesome new games. If you have any more suggestions based on the games I talked about today, feel free to drop them below in the comments. And thanks to all of you that have made this channel a reality. I hope you all have a very happy holidays. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so I can keep growing this channel and keep helping you find your perfect board game. Once again, this has been a Might I Suggest a Game production, and I'm Alex, your board game sommelier, signing off.